Hey, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
Celebrating 9 years of podcast excellence, the King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Here we go, episode 737 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. No, it's not a Boeing jet. This is just another podcast. You're on the King of Podcasts Radio Network. About 3 weeks from now, we will be entering year 11 of the program. I will be celebrating my 10th anniversary, and I'll just put it like this. I'm going to make the celebration official. I'll make the celebration officially for, well, it would have to be December 14th. The December 14th episode, I will deem the 10th anniversary of the Wrestling is Real podcast. The official date is December 18th, but we will just make it for the 14th leading up to it. And I'll reach out to Mark and I'll reach out to Jeremy and see if they would like to be on or make any messages. But for the most part, I'll probably just be on my own, on my little bully pulpit, and do the show myself, which I've been doing for what, about the last 7 years, something like that. I did the first couple of years with Jeremy and with Mark in some way, shape, or form, and then I went here, and ever since I've just been moving and grooving. And I'll admit the last couple of weeks have been kind of tough to really talk about wrestling. There's not been much to say, but I also feel like I've needed to reserve myself. I didn't want to go through and start making a whole lot of claims and a whole lot of complaining until we got to this point. When SummerSlam came in, and I wanted to give Triple H some time to see what he was going to do with the TV programming, what he was going to do with leading things up to WrestleMania season. We're now at the end of Survivor Series. There is no TLC. There's not even a day one. Instead, we have what? As the NXT deadline, that's the one that's going to be the January 1st, right? Or is there something else? Am I missing what that is? Hold on. Oh, sorry, December 10th. So, yeah, it's coming up in 2 weeks. But no day one. They decided not to do a day one in 2023. So it's interesting they're going to do that. Because as of right now, if we're looking at the calendar, in 2023, the report was that day one was being canceled, and that was as of October. Hell in a Cell will no longer be a part of the pay-per-view schedule. Extreme Rules, also not a part of the pay-per-view schedule. This is where a lot of things happened in the post-conference with Triple H, where he decided where things were going to go going forward. And Money in the Bank, as a pay-per-view, is also possibly canceled. And so we might get the Money in the Bank matches instead. And so we have to talk about what Triple H had said in that post-conference after the fact. Because there was a lot that he said afterwards. And so he decided to go that route. And let's go ahead and get into it. So here's what was brought up, and I'm going to take from Yahoo Entertainment that talked about this. The post-show press conference for Survivor Series, there was a lot of things that were brought up. First of all, he was asked about if WarGames would be a permanent fixture at Survivor Series. And while he said that the match was a yearly staple, the 2022 event marked the first time WarGames was held with Raw and SmackDown brands. They're going to evaluate what the future holds for making a WarGames a yearly staple. He says that it worked incredibly well tonight, and it was very exciting, but we'll see how it goes. And right now, they're looking at the year-to-year calendar, seeing where things go. So they're going to shake the whole calendar up. The branded pay-per-views are going away. The main four are going to stay where they are. They're obviously doing something else instead with their normal pay-per-view schedule. Okay. That makes sense. I understand that. When it comes to Survivor Series, he doesn't believe like the elimination matches are going to be wiped out. That's not going to go away anywhere time soon. It's iconic. So we'll wait on that. So, for instance, there was an internal memo that was sent out by WWE, and Wrestling Headlines actually got this. So, also, it was originally from Fightful Select. Let's make that point clear. Survivor Series was the most viewed on record, and Triple H announced that in the press conference, viewership jumped 46% from the previous year. It drew the best in-venue merchandise in the sale of the history of all Survivor Series shows, up 20%. Live Gate was the highest ever in Boston and for Survivor Series. And fan enjoyment was up 48% from last year. No word on how this was totally measured. And that social media views were up year over year. The TikTok video of undisputed Universal Champion Roman Reigns sending Sami Zayn into the WarGames drew 13 million views by itself. But one of the things they kept talking about was that there are going to be changes to the pay-per-views. That is something that's going to happen down the line, which is okay. I mean, if they want to do that, and what they want to do now is they want to start including matches when are needed for feuds or when it's just deemed at the right time. And the idea, obvious with Triple H, is to take the Money in the Bank briefcase match and put it back into WrestleMania. Maybe what's going to happen is some of those gimmick matches will then be put into WrestleMania instead. So the idea would be, instead of having so many gimmick matches throughout the year, instead, WrestleMania would be consumed with many gimmick matches, which would still remain the same stars. Okay, so the idea would be, instead of doing what we've done in the past, we're going to still do the 2-day shows, but we're going to do gimmicks all across the board with the main roster involved. That's the idea, it sounds like. And if we look at what WrestleMania looked like last year, I mean, I didn't really check on how many different shows we had or how many different matches we had last year that really stood out from what happened. If we look back at Arlington, Texas last year and the card that we had, the gimmick matches that we had last year, okay, we had a lot of singles and tag team matches. We did have the first night 3 title matches and a no holds barred match. And then in the WrestleMania night 2, we had an anything goes match. We had 3 title matches. The rest were singles and title matches. So the thought process to me is this. It's going to counter program. If we shake up the lineup of what we have in our matches, and instead of having to go and bring in featured players, part-timers on a regular basis, if we could do that, instead of doing the regular same old thing, right? And start using the pay-per-views where these matches have these special stipulation matches, where the Hell in a Cell, Extreme Rules, Money in the Bank, all those are used in something else. It's not a bad idea. Because he's going to probably take things and try to repurpose some things. I can see where King of the Ring or Queen of the Ring will be turned into a pay-per-view. I can actually see that happening. We can see that. Who knows what they're going to do? But the idea is obviously Triple H in the NXT Takeover level of booking that he did, which is what we have to talk about right now, is what we're getting at the moment. It is very much takeover level type booking. When it comes to the stars that he's brought back over to see if they can do something to help bolster things up, well, what he's done with all that talent is the core audience that's remaining is back and now they're retaining. Like the fact that he's able to get almost 1.7 million viewers for Raw and they're consistently getting well over 2 million viewers for SmackDown. That's good. It's more than what Vince was doing. It's consistency. Triple H is actually delivering mid-card and he's delivering consistency. That's what he's doing right now. That's fine if you're just like trying to do a show and just try to go along. If any other wrestling program could do that and have consistent ratings, then they would be doing fine. AEW struggles with that. Impact Wrestling definitely struggles with that. And so, if you imagine where all these other organizations, all these other wrestling promotions, they struggle with consistency. Consistent storylines, the amount of level of talent, the quality of matches, the quality of booking, all of that. But consistency is actually the easy part. That's something that Triple H should be able to do. That's something that Vince should have been able to do as well. But Vince would do things where it was a lot of overthinking and a lot of, well, I know what I'm talking about. A lot of, ego that played into some decisions that were not great and some that were fantastic. As we know, Vince was just a mad genius. What Triple H has done, he's trying to keep a boat steady and going towards port. Like, he's doing a very serviceable job. It's above average. But WWE cannot expect to be above average, especially when he now has the control of the pen or the pencil. He has to do more. So when I talked about, I hope that he's going to do something with the main event. I hope he does. Because that's what they need to do. That's what needs to happen. It's consistency that has to come across here so we can get somewhere. And I don't know if it's there yet. I don't know if he's going to have what it's going to need to be done in order for him to make WrestleMania season blow up. Like he did. Listen, they already had a good SummerSlam already set up. Survivor Series was fine. Now, people out there, my wrestling podcast brethren out there, they're going to complain about certain things. One of the things he kept complaining about was, okay, Ronda Rousey. So Brian Kendrick from the back, he's been doing some work. He is an agent before. He's been a producer and he's worked at other places. And all of a sudden, okay, he was brought in by Ronda Rousey, according to the reports, to help in the booking and the framework, laying out the match with her against Shotzi. And a lot of people were defending Shotzi. And that's what's happening now. The NXT Black and Gold faithful, I'm going to call them. Okay? It's much of the core audience, but definitely those that if they could get the Full Sail and be a part of all those matches, and Mauro and Olo, going wild at every 2 count, right? Every near count. On every chant of every flippity flop, every other move, and no selling and all this other shit. This is the crowd that is now relishing in this programming. But people are complaining. They want to go ahead and start nitpicking on the things that, well, the NXT Black and Gold playbook, the NXT Black and Gold method, the format, it should work on the main roster. This is what some people are trying to say. Okay. We can go to podcasters out there and they're going to say, oh, well, this should work on the main roster. These women stars should be better on the main roster. Johnny Gargano should excel on the main roster. Karrion Kross should excel on the main roster. Candice LeRae should excel on the main roster. But then you have to think about the fact that, okay, that woulda, coulda, shoulda, but it's not. WWE is still, and for as long as I've been watching for 40 years, I know that this is not the A game. The main event, listen, they're doing a lot of things where the mid-card has momentum, and that's what WrestleMania 39 is going to be built off of. The Royal Rumble is going to be built off because of the fact that, I'll tell you this, people are not going to shit on the Royal Rumble this year. When they get to the Royal Rumble coming up, no one's going to shit on it. You know why? Because of all the work they've done in the mid-card, building feuds, building wrestlers, making these matches important again. The Royal Rumble match is actually going to be one of the best ones in probably a decade, maybe 15 years. I am not kidding when I say that. And I think we're going to have complete unpredictability when we get to Royal Rumble. So I feel really good about Royal Rumble season. Once we get to Royal Rumble, first of all, we have no other shows right now leading up to it. So all they need to do is set up for Royal Rumble if they want to. They don't have anything else to run up to now anyway. There are no pay-per-views to set up. You're talking about 2 months. 2 months to get set. Incredible. So we're going to get there, and what comes next? Like, that is monster that we're going to get to Royal Rumble, and it's going to be such a damn big show coming up. So it's coming up, Alamo Dome, San Antonio, Texas, January 28th. Almost exactly 2 months away. I imagine with no shows in between, you're going to do some specialty shows on Raw and SmackDown, something for Christmas time that'll be built up. They'll have some specialty events to lead up to it, which is good for television. And I think that's one of the novelty things we're going to get coming up for Christmas time is we're not going to get the typical Santa Claus, Christmas on 34th Street, Miracle for 34th Street fight, things like that. I think those kind of matches are not going to come in this time around. We're not going to get the normal hobnob, novelty, goofy shit that we normally get. I think that's not happening this time. I think Triple H wants to be a little more adult about it. And I think that's the part we're going to get as well. It's not going to be as immature as before. Well, I get some things that are kind of like, teenage humor, but I don't think we're getting that here. And I think that's something that we'll notice a lot now coming up. But then we also have to figure out, okay, are they going to take a break on us? Like they have their tours they're going to go do. Are they going to take a break on us and try to keep the storylines very consistent and important and make us have good reasons to keep watching? I mean, the good news is they're not going to have to worry about Christmas and New Year's falling on the nights for either SmackDown or Raw. That's one thing they're actually happy about, I'm sure. Because Christmas doesn't land until Sunday, day after Christmas, day after New Year's, January 2nd. So they're all set with that. But now, okay, if they're not going to do anything with any pay-per-views, any kind of events, after NXT Deadline next week, that's it. Ring of Honor will have Final Battle, and we won't have any other pay-per-views for the rest of the year. So the focus will be, what does WWE decide to do next, going forward? Are they going to go forward and say, okay, we're going to try to build storylines that will be harvested into the Royal Rumble match? Because you look at the Royal Rumble match that we'll have down the line. You got all the brawling. Remember, you're going to have all these factions together. The God of the Phantasma, Brawling Brutes, New Day, Bloodline. Well, no, Bloodline not so much, but think about it. You'll have a lot of different players in this whole mix that'll be a part of this. Probably there'll be a good chance a couple of nostalgia acts will come back in because that'll be expected. We don't know if Edge comes back or Cody comes back or Randy Orton comes back. We don't know. And you obviously have some pretty good names that'll be a part of the Royal Rumble match with Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, Austin Theory, among others. So you got that going for you, and you're saying, okay, what else is next after that? Are there going to be any storylines that are going to build up leading up to things? Will Karrion Kross get more of a build? Will Johnny Gargano get more of a build? Where does The Miz play? Where does Gunther or Imperium play? It's a lot of questions to answer. I'm not really sure what to think about it yet. But we'll have to look down the line and try to understand where things go from here. And so the mid-card momentum will actually bolster the Royal Rumble match. I honestly believe that wholeheartedly. We're going to get a better Royal Rumble. I can almost guarantee that. We're actually going to be excited for the Royal Rumble this year. We're not going to have a couple of names now because of how badly booked all these other stars are. Because they've tried to make the effort for certain stars to be more important. Judgment Day is going to be a part of it. I mean, the other question is, will the Royal Rumble be still men's and women's? Will they make it intergender? I could absolutely see where, for instance, if the Royal Rumble match was being done, maybe you don't have to have all the women in the match. Maybe you don't have to have a designated women's Royal Rumble match. I mean, you could because of what you're going to set up. But imagine if you had a little bit of opening where Ronda came into the Royal Rumble match, the men's match. Shayna Baszler got into the men's match. Or more importantly, Rhea Ripley gets into the men's match. Who wouldn't want to see that? This is, I think, what the modus operandi is right now with Triple H and the folks there. They're not going to take the shiny part-time objects to do something with. They're going to take within their own roster. They're just going to try to spice everything up. The mid-card is better. But that main event part is still lacking. And there are things that are being talked about as to what the potential matches might be down the line once they get to that point. So let's talk about that. I don't know if I feel good about what they're doing yet, but one of the things I talked about when I wrote down notes for the show tonight, I said, when it comes to that main event, WWE does not have the star power on their everyday roster to sell out Royal Rumble and WrestleMania on their own or grow the ratings above and beyond their core audience. And when I look at, from the initial thoughts, and this is before I read anything else tonight, I wrote this on Monday after the Raw, and I said, okay, if thinking Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn will be at the level of Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar is delusional. I don't feel like, I mean, listen, Sami Zayn is getting much more of a star push now, and he's definitely more prominent. I don't know if Sami Zayn moves up to that level where he becomes a main eventer. And Kevin Owens, I think he's still stuck in his upper mid-card, semi-main event level. I don't think he goes above that. I think he's been used so many times for so many different things that I don't see him yet to where he's the same Kevin Owens, the prize fighter. I mean, he is somewhat. And, you know, they gave him a win on Monday night, but I'm still thinking there's still nothing there for me for Kevin Owens to say, because it's not the wins that he has to help make him so credible against Roman Reigns or the Bloodline. Not yet. I don't see that yet. Kevin Owens took the pin at Survivor Series. Like, there's things where Kevin Owens continues to be booked. Like, he's still like, okay, he's kind of fighting back. He's still somewhat strong, but he's not strong to the level of a main event level to where a credible match with him and Roman Reigns in a feud to where Roman Reigns could drop the belt to Kevin Owens. I don't think it'll happen. If it's anybody else, yes. But we're talking about who is going to be at the level of Roman Reigns. Is there anybody on this damn roster right now that can do that? Do we think of anyone right now that can give us that kind of feel? I don't think so. Moving along with what I wrote here in my notes. For any other promotion but WWE, they will always require bigger stars because they would not make the established and never disregarded Vince McMahon cut. That's what I talk about. That would Vince sign off on Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens being the next world champion? Could you see Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard? Do you think that would be something that would have been acceptable or allowed or would have been possible if Vince were still in charge? No. Is there anyone right now that you think of that could be? Do you think Drew McIntyre could? No. Bobby Lashley? Probably not. There's nobody on the main roster. I still think today Seth Rollins is still a wild card. Why they don't want to use him in the main event to go up against Roman Reigns? You have a story there. You got a feud you can go to right there. You never went to it. You could have done it. You could still do it, but for whatever reason they chose not to. I don't know why. So Bleacher Report actually talked about intriguing storylines to track on the road to Royal Rumble. Let's talk about those real quick. One, Rhea Ripley's return to the title picture. Yeah, Rhea Ripley is probably the best, most improved superstar now on that roster, thanks to Triple H. Yeah, the NXT character, This Is My Brutality, in the role that she was standalone, after you dropped her and the whole women's tag team title picture with her and Nikki ASH. So you made both characters revert back to their black and gold personas, right? But Rhea Ripley now has evolved from her original character. She's now mommy, akin to Dominic Mysterio in the Judgment Day. A fantastic, listen, if you wanted to convince Dominic to join the Judgment Day, excellent. I mean, they have, Judgment Day is probably the second best storyline next to Bloodline. Now, it's a far number two. Bloodline is just, it's an incredible storyline. It's so good across the board. I mean, is it NWA good? Is it Degeneration X good? Man. Like early NWO with like the first 5, right? If we're talking, let's talk about like first 6, right? If we're talking Hall, Nash, Hogan, 6, Giant. Let's just say those right there, and Bischoff. Man, that is a toss-up. Man, I'm an NWO person. I watched all that. I watched Nitro the whole way through, 96 to like 2000 to 2001. I watched WCW religiously, Nitro and Thunder, and I'll just tell you, Bloodline right now, that's getting up to the NWO level, but the very early part, not when it started getting overblown. Bloodline is a very good faction, but it's also like pretty easy to do. Like it's family. It's easy to put this together. And the Sami Zayn thing is just like just an anomaly, but it works. With Judgment Day, they put the extra anomaly as Rhea Ripley. And honestly, Rhea Ripley makes Judgment Day. If they didn't have her there, it wouldn't make sense. But like the Edge version of Judgment Day with just him, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley, no. But when they went to this route and Dominic was brought in, game changer. It works. And it's on the money. And now Rhea Ripley, you want to see her win a title? Yes. Yes, absolutely. Do we want to see Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair? Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Rhea Ripley was the MVP of the Women's War Games match. Now she is at the full potential. Her star is on the rise, much like Bianca Belair was 2 years ago. That's where she is right now. Where Bianca Belair is right now, Rhea Ripley's trying to get there, which is exactly where you want to be. Bianca Belair is the top star on that women's division. She's more important than Ronda Rousey is. Period. So, with that said, here's what you got. So the Nightmare, she's now a favorite to win the Women's Royal Rumble match. Sure. And then let her go for the Raw Women's title. That would be a great way to go. I'm totally in for that. To have a fresh face now go up against, and by the way, a feud that worked at NXT very well, and rehash it now for the main roster? Yes, absolutely. During the press conference for Survivor Series, Bianca Belair actually named Ripley as an ideal WrestleMania opponent. And by the way, Belair eliminated the former NXT Women's Champion to punch her ticket to WrestleMania 37 to get her title win. Let's remember that. And I'm sure they're going to probably bring that up in the Royal Rumble match as well. So that's really good. Now, the big question to ask here is about who's going to dethrone Roman Reigns. So there are options. And when you're looking at things right now, for Royal Rumble, they're talking about, let's go for like a 6-man tag team match. Sheamus could eventually challenge Reigns. Seth Rollins is technically the only man to hand the head of the table a pay-per-view loss in 2022. Correct. Seth Rollins is the person that should get the title shot. Like, I mean, if you're not going to get The Rock, give it to Seth. Seth and Roman, there's all the story in the world right there. All the story in the world. It's just, what do you do for Seth to help him go up against the Bloodline so he has a actual chance against Roman? Because I don't have a problem in my mind. I've said this many times before. I have no problem if Seth Rollins beats Roman Reigns for the title. If he's the one that breaks the streak, the 800-day plus reign of the tribal chief, I have no problem with Seth Rollins winning. Not at all. Seth Rollins, I think, is that hot level of a star too. And he's a loyal guy. He's a company guy. He's in it. Then you also have Cody Rhodes, who could also be the fan favorite, but he's going to be coming back from injury. Can they go back to him right away? And do they want to just have Seth and Cody go after each other one more time? Because what if you do have that match to just follow back up? I mean, Cody already set himself up to go against Roman Reigns because he wants the championship. So he made that point. Wants to make his daddy proud. So Seth or Cody would be the choices. Unless The Rock comes in somewhere, but I don't know if they're going to get to that. But we don't know anything yet. Now, Becky Lynch coming back around. It was a nice way to bring her back in Survivor Series to make that match important, that Women's Survivor Series match. Then in the story on Bleacher Report, they're saying that Becky Lynch needs to be sent over to the draft. Which, by the way, the draft is going to actually happen after WrestleMania. So what it looks like is Triple H wants to bring things back the way it was. Shuffle after WrestleMania. As it was before and as it will be again. Makes sense to me. And when it comes to Sami Zayn and the Bloodline, they're also saying that, Reigns will turn on him, and then somehow Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn will get together, and they'll go up against the Usos for the tag team titles. And they could be the ones, believably, that could beat the Usos for those tag team titles. I could see that happening. I think they want to have that Owens and Zayn dynamic, bring them back together, because they never did it really in WWE. Like, all the times they've been against each other, and they're like friends, and they screw each other, and all this other stuff going on. To get them back together all together, both as faces, yeah, that would be, people would love it. That would be a fan favorite. You would get the fans what they want if they did it. Because, yeah, Sami Zayn's going to probably be a babyface down the line. And then Kevin Owens would have to follow suit, and then you get them together. So I can see it. So that's what's been talked about and speculated by Bleacher Report. But now what about the actual updates as to what could actually happen? The reports we're hearing now, as of late, are the following. For the plans for Roman Reigns so far, many fans expect him to go against The Rock. There was a report from Zero News that says that Reigns might be working both nights at WrestleMania, and the rumored idea opens up several possibilities about the world title picture heading into the show of shows. One is there is talk of Roman to pull double duty, but this may change. For whatever reason, Austin Theory, now that he won the U.S. title at Survivor Series, he's talking about he's going to prepare to go one-on-one with Reigns. He told City News Ottawa. So we don't know what they're going to actually do, but they're saying that Roman Reigns actually might wrestle both nights and headline. So if they have to do that, that makes sense. It's a lot of work for Roman, but if you got him out there, that'll be understood. Okay, so we get Roman Reigns on both nights. Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, we'll get that for the Raw Women's title, right? Usos against Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Okay. Tag team titles. We have to find an opponent for Ronda. And we'd have to find out what's going to happen with other stars. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with Ronda and that title. We don't know what's going to happen with anything else at all. But they need to build up for those stars as well. Now, you can make the women's Royal Rumble match where, if Rhea Ripley's going to win the women's Royal Rumble match, then there's your title shot there. So what do you do with Ronda, who earns that spot in that against Ronda Rousey gets that for that title shot now? Because I think also you got to think about with Liv Morgan, when she took the belt off of her, might have weakened Ronda Rousey now to where she feels a little bit irrelevant. Like, the luster of her right now is kind of gone. Now, what do we do with her and Shayna Baszler? Like, do we do something here to kind of get them back up? Do we let Ronda drop the SmackDown Women's title, and do we let Shayna and Ronda go out to the tag team titles? I like that idea. Like, if you want the women's tag team titles to matter, let's go and get Io Sky and Dakota Kai against Shayna and Ronda. I love that. You could set that up. Give something Ronda new to go after instead of trying to put some other opponent against her, like another Shotzi, which, I'm sorry, everybody wants to feel like Shotzi was the one that gets the blame. No, she just doesn't have the star power. She was an important deal in NXT, but I don't think she's going to be that big a deal here. She doesn't have promo ability. She doesn't have presence. She has a good gimmick, a good look. Her wrestling's not great. It's good, but it's not great. Like, I don't see her going out there putting out some big 20, 25-minute match. I don't see her going up against the likes of a Becky or a Rhea or a Bianca or an Alexa. I just don't see it. I just don't. Bray Wyatt has to have a match, right? So you got that going for you. And LA Knight has to also be involved. Are we going to get to the point where LA Knight and Bray Wyatt will be down to the Royal Rumble, or are they going to be met up at WrestleMania? Do we take that feud all the way to there? Like, are we getting feuds that are going to go to there now, and are we going to build those up over the next couple of months? Is that what's going to happen too? And then you think about the gimmick matches. Listen, I'm going to tell you this too. And I would not have any doubt in my mind if they decide to do this. You remember the cinematic matches we had in 2020, of which we loved. The Boneyard match with Undertaker and AJ Styles. What a fantastic match. We all still praise that match. It's still great to watch again. And then we had John Cena and Bray Wyatt, and they did that whole deal with that. Like, what if we got cinematic matches again? Hell, Jeremy Borash is just probably sitting there chomping at the bit to do one. So you could get that. Imagine if we had a cinematic match on one of those nights. And then you also do another night where, remember, everyone was doing cinematic matches. Weren't that? We had Ken Shamrock and Sami Callihan. Everybody was doing the final deletion. They all followed that formula. And I think you could bring that back for a cinematic match at WrestleMania. And then you'd want to have Money in the Bank. So you have another title shot available. But now what's interesting is, okay, yeah, then you'll have two winners. At Royal Rumble, you'll have somebody that will win the Rumble and get a title shot. And the Money in the Bank ladder match will have a winner that will get a title shot. You're not spreading those out. You'll just have that to go along with. And then all that intrigue is going to be like, okay, what happens with the title shot? What happens with the briefcase? Okay. Do we get an Extreme Rules match at the pay-per-view one of those nights? Do we get a no-holds-barred match at the pay-per-view? I mean, do we get a Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania? Like, you could stack them up with all these different kind of matches. And then you don't have to put them at those matches. You could put one at SummerSlam. You could put it at Summer Survivor Series. Take all those gimmick matches, and you could put them anywhere you want. Or feature them in their own place. You could do that too. So that's not a bad idea. I get what they're trying to do with that. Because then you can use those for proper ending of feuds to escalate the matches so that just matches to end matches. You take the Hell in a Cell match and make it something. An Extreme Rules match actually means something. Sure. The same way AEW does Blood and Guts or their Lights Out matches. That's the same thing. And WWE would just be doing the same kind of idea. There's a lot of that's there that's very interesting and would not be a bad idea. Like, what about the match that Matt Riddle did? You know, in the cage. You could do that again too, right? That's not a bad idea. There's a lot of those kind of things you could do. I don't mind that. So, like, that's not bad to have these kind of matches and see if there's something to go with it. Now, what I don't understand either is why is Matt Riddle being relegated down to the matches that he does? Like, seriously, after the match with Seth Rollins and Riddle, why did that end up here to be nothing else more? Like, why did the fight pit after that Riddle was just like brought down to Elias? Like, why did Riddle get dropped down? Why did his push go away? That doesn't make sense to me. Maybe it gets built back up at Royal Rumble, but like I'm saying, there's just certain stars I don't understand how they're being used and what they're being utilized for, but some people are getting used for others. I don't understand that. I gotta prefer Riddle over Austin Theory if you're gonna give me a push, in my opinion anyway. And now we look at all this here, right? And I'm saying to myself, okay, so what else now? So we have all the matches that can be discussed. There's that part. And then what else happens after that? Okay, so we want to go ahead and go with, you put those matches together, and you got the draft, and you change things up with the draft. You can bring out the King of the Ring. You can bring up other things you've done before and gimmick away. And then you have matches that mean something. Even though there might be the same stars we've seen out there for a long time. No fresh faces. Nobody that we're going to bring up from NXT that's going to be extra and special new. No. We're not getting any of that. Which makes sense to me. There you go. It's a lot to think about. So I'm going to continue to ponder all these different things. I don't want to go ahead and go too far into the weeds with it, but I feel like with all this is going on, when it comes to what WWE is trying to do, I think we're kind of getting the idea of what they might be trying to do, but I'm going to give them some time to see what they do in December and see what they do for the rest of the WrestleMania season. Does the WrestleMania season start before Christmas? Like, are we actually going to start doing that? The question will be, are they going to plan for some kind of show or some kind of matches that are going to be really stood out? Just like they had, Edge in his match in Montreal, first time in forever. Are we going to get something that Raw and SmackDown are going to have some matches that are going to be really stand out, or some nights that are going to be really stand out to where they're going to make them almost pay-per-view quality. Like, is that going to be spread out? Because if we're not getting a premium live event, are we going to get some kind of quality type matches at that level for December? Or are we just going to wait till Royal Rumble and wait all the way to that? That's the question. I don't know. There's a few other things I want to bring up before we go wrap things up. I'm not going to an hour. Like I said, I don't want to start going into a full diatribe and start ranting away for an hour thinking that I need to start complaining. I don't feel that yet. And if I don't feel like I have to go on that full rant, I'm not going to. So we're on the 40-minute mark right now. And, I'm going to take a few other things that I want to bring up that are important that will be also big. One of the things that's going on with WWE, we know that the draft is going to come back in the spring after WrestleMania. That's one of the things we can look forward to after that. One of the other things that WWE is looking at right now is planning a major event for India for January 2023. And they want to do some more international super shows. So they're thinking of India. So they're looking at the Indian subcontinent. Sportskeeda Wrestling is saying they're just looking to host a grand scale event, and nothing's been confirmed. Sportskeeda sources have mentioned several details about the event, and the place where they could hold it is Hyderabad in mid-January, but a precise date and venue has not been named. Now, Hyderabad is the home of Bollywood. That's where all the major celebrities and big stars, that's like the big Hollywood of India, is there, Hyderabad. Drew McIntyre is listed within the reports as a lock for the event. He already went to India for a Bollywood project, and he's been vocal about a desire to bring WWE to India in a grand fashion. And that the event would be involved a mix of superstars, both Indian and international. So you can get that too. Which wouldn't be a bad idea, right? The other thing I want to make mention of that was also very important, I think we should bring up. Oh, I will say this about Impact, or something for AEW tonight, Dynamite. What a fantastic promo by MJF. He debuts the big Burberry belt. What a fantastic way to put that together. I love it. Did such a great job introducing him now out. And incredible. He drops again, jolly old Saint Nick, goes after Nick, drops on him on Nick Khan and Triple H. The whole storyline is set. So we get to see the unholy union of Lord Steven Regal, William Regal, whatever you want to call him, and Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And the explanation as to what happened. So, with the match with Moxley, and the heated between them started years ago, and Regal, we know about what happened about MJF, the whole description of the whole explanation of the firm, and the explanation of MJF, and that Regal told Max if he wanted to win the title, he had to grab the brass ring rather than the Dynamite Diamond one. It's brass knuckles. That's what he meant. And then MJF became the villain of our time. He said he could help make MJF the villain of our time. But then MJF reveals the start of his era, says he's disgusted by the old AW belt, and opens and unveils the big Burberry belt, the signature scarf pattern on the strap. It's fantastic. I love that he uses Burberry as like his signature and out here the scarf, which by the way he's been using it since I can't even remember. Like I remember seeing him in MLW and with Arya Blake at his side, and the Burberry was on then. Burberry needs to start paying this man some money. He needs to be decked out in Burberry, as a matter of fact. And then he promises to keep the belt until the bidding war of 2024, which he's also said many times before, along with teasing Nick Khan and Triple H as his next employers if he doesn't go to Hollywood, which we already know that he's going to be part of the Iron Claw, the new Von Erichs movie. We've learned about that. And then he talked about his future contenders. That Ricky Starks has a title shot against him at Winter is Coming, after winning the recent World Title Eliminator Tournament. Another challengers he mocked was Bryan Danielson. And so there you go. Incredible night. And the announcers were all pissed off at him. Like, really, the guy just made himself such an evil piece of shit. MJF, full heel, fantastic. Again, as always, the best thing, next to Roman Reigns, he's the next best thing in wrestling. He really is. It's incredible. Such good stuff. The rest of the show was fine. But like I said, the MJF segment right there, and then Hangman Adam Page and Jon Moxley rekindling their feud. I love that too. That's good. So they're just kind of just working on things, setting things up for winter's coming. And then eventually go down into Revolution coming up next spring, or at the end of the winter. We'll have that coming up. But now they also have Final Battle to help as well, with Chris Jericho up against Claudio Castagnoli, right? And by the way, Ring of Honor Final Battle, that's December 15th. And that's also it's really weird. It's in the afternoon they're doing the show. But I'll make sure to watch it, and we'll make sure to do a post show for that in a couple weeks. So far, Chris Jericho, Claudio Castagnoli for the Ring of Honor World title, and for the Pure title, Daniel Garcia versus Wheeler Yuta. And by the way, stipulation, if Claudio loses, he must join the Jericho Appreciation Society. Good stuff. Again, I don't get the 4 o'clock start, but hey, Arlington, Texas, they're going to do it, and Ring of Honor will do the show. No problem. I'm looking forward to it. Or December 10th. Okay. One more story. I think this is very important, and I'm glad to see this for Impact Wrestling. I haven't talked much about them, but you know what? This is important for them. Distribution. Access to TV can only go so long for them. Well, now they have something new to talk about. They announced this on their website, that Anthem Sports Entertainment and DAZN, the streaming site for all the major combat sports, including boxing and MMA, they've announced an international multi-year distribution partnership for Impact Wrestling. So with that said, Impact Wrestling will now be delivered through the DAZN platform to over 170 different countries worldwide beginning on November 29th. So the multi-year agreement will allow countries like the UK, Ireland, Switzerland, Austria, France, Poland, Spain, Italy, the Netherlands, Japan, Brazil. They'll all get the chance to watch the weekly Impact series. And they can also watch the pay-per-views and premium live Impact Plus live specials, and be able to look at the Impact Wrestling archives directly through the DAZN. That's a big deal. And Scott D'Amore mentions that we're proud to partner with them as we expand Impact Wrestling's international reach even further. So the DAZN now is going to hold the Impact Wrestling archives in the DAZN platform, and all the premium live events, all their pay-per-views, and the Impact Plus specials every month. They're all going to be on there. And the show, weekly show. Fantastic. Good stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out and how it all comes together. But I have not looked at the DAZN for a while. I got to look at them and see how I like the show, how I like everything over there anyway. Because I don't know how much you're able to catch on here or watch on a regular basis, but I do want to see how it is. And how it does. But I haven't paid attention to it much as of late. So I'm curious. I'm curious how it all works out. So I want to see how that all works out. I'm going to actually see if I can watch the DAZN pretty regularly on Impact over there and see how it works out. Because I've not looked at the DAZN itself to see what the whole thing is set up on. And if you want to watch, I guess you have to be subscribed to the platform anyway to watch. That's what I'm guessing. I don't know that yet or not. So we'll figure out how that all works. But I'm glad to see Impact Wrestling get in that. That's an important piece of the puzzle for them. That's the show tonight, folks. We're going to come back and we'll talk about the lead up to Ring of Honor's Final Battle and deadline for NXT, which I've been kind of lackadaisically watching NXT so much. We'll watch all how it's going on. And we'll come back all over again. And most likely next week we'll start doing our year in wrestling review. We'll start doing that as well. So let's leave it there. So come back for another Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at WrestlingIsReal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.